More politicians are announcing their intentions to run for president. A shooting in North Carolina has caused a lot of backlash, and the relationship between the United States and Cuba is getting better and better. All of that and coming up and more, coming up on Talking Points. Good evening and welcome to Talking Points. I'm Max Darrow. Before we get the conversation started, let's go over this week's top headlines. The Student Association elections are going on this week. They're set to end on Thursday night at 11:59 p.m. Aisha Sadat and Jane Hong are the only official candidates on the ballot for president and vice president. However, there are 4 other write-in candidates running campaigns. Phil Kramer is running for comptroller. Students can also vote for the College of Arts and Sciences representatives. The Student Association hosted a forum last weekend, and only one student was present. Workers across the United States are coming together to call for a hike in the minimum wage. The Services Employees International Union organized protests in more than 230 cities across the country yesterday. The protests happened at large chains such as McDonald's and Walmart, as well as at college campuses. They were a part of the Fight for $15 campaign. And former New England Patriots player Aaron Hernandez is going to prison. Hernandez is on trial for the 2013 death of his fiancée's sister's boyfriend, Odin Lloyd. Hernandez was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Hernandez is also awaiting trial for the death of 2 other men. He pleaded not guilty. And when we come back, find out all about the newest 2 presidential candidates in the 2016 election. You're watching Talking Points. Talking Points is more than just a campus political show. We tackle big issues and have in-depth conversations.
Talking Points.
Talking Points. We report the political news that our students not only need to know, but deserve to know.
Talking Points.
We do it at the local news level, and we do it at the national news level. We're here. You need us. All the political news you need, only on Talking Points. Talking Points. Talking Points. Only on CitrusTV.
So, I just moved in with his family, and it's embarrassing. The little one, he likes to go outside and crawl around in the giant litter box. I don't know what he's doing. I mean, I was born and I knew how to use the litter box. Look at that. That's disgusting. Oh, poop already. You're making me nervous. Oh, okay, I can't look at this anymore. I really hope he grows out of this, for his sake.
Thanks for being with us. Now, another Republican candidate is running for president. We'll go to Mike Riccardi to talk about Marco Rubio's announcement just recently. Mike, thanks for being with us.
Good to have me.
So, Rubio talked a lot about youth in his announcement. What did he really mean by that?
Well, you know, he really stressed youth, and he made a promise for a fresh start for America. And with this promise, a lot of it hinged on his heritage as the son of two Cuban immigrants. And a lot of it has to do with, not the past, but the future. His new PAC, Reclaim America, is really emphasized on that future. And he took a jab at Hillary Clinton in the process, basically saying, she was yesterday's candidate and she wants to bring us back to yesterday, which was kind of fitting because she announced the day before he did.
Mike, before we continue, let's take a look at this video.
Grounded by the lessons of our history, but inspired by the promise of our future, I announce my candidacy for President of the United States.
Rubio is the third Republican to announce. He is the son of Cuban immigrants and was elected as junior senator of Florida in 2010. Rubio highlighted his heritage as he related it to the American dream, calling for a refocus on what he refers to as America's greatest institution, family. Alongside another 2016 hopeful, Ted Cruz, Rubio is one of 3 Latinos in the Senate. In his announcement, Rubio called for immigration reform, a new tax code, and a repeal and replacement of Obamacare. He was also critical of Hillary Clinton and the current state of foreign diplomacy. After his announcement, Rubio did not head to Iowa, but instead went back to Washington, D.C., where he spoke at the Heritage Foundation.
All right, so continuing with the discussion, has he seen any difficulty in these primaries, or what difficulties is he going to face?
Well, you know, he's not as conservative as some people would like him to be, specifically on issues like immigration, where he wants a path to citizenship, and his tax code. However, he has, he's going over to the conservative side on education, where conservatives are now starting to talk about wealth inequality, which was mainly a Democratic issue. But now he's moving over there with his new plan for education and bettering the lives of American families.
So what has he done since his announcement?
So he spoke at the Heritage Foundation on what we call his Tax Day, and he basically rolled out his new tax code plan with Utah Senator Mike Lee. And this plan basically hinges around bettering the lives of families that have children, and he wants to support business and investment through tax levies. But the one thing that conservatives don't like about it is the fact that it maintains that top income tax rate of 35%.
So how does he fare against his friend Jeb Bush, if Bush does in fact declare?
Well, Jeb Bush and Marco Rubio go way back. They've been friends for 15 years, and they worked together in the Florida government while Jeb was governor and Marco Rubio was working his way through the legislature. You know, a lot of people have called the relationship kind of like an uncle-nephew sort of thing. They're almost family, and they have the same kind of conservative mindset, and they've worked together on a lot of key issues. In fact, in 2010, Jeb Bush was one of the main advisors for Marco Rubio and helped line up a lot of endorsements and donations for his cause against the race against Charlie Crist.
So what are his stances on key foreign policy issues?
So he's really interventionist, and he wants to protect, the American leadership in the world. And he also wants to protect the policies of democracy. And with that, he supports movements like arming the Syrian rebels and helping send arms to Ukraine to fight the Russian separatists. And, another thing that's so interesting about this announcement is that it came right in time for all of the Iran and Cuba stuff to come out. He's been a very staunch opposition to Obama's Cuban plans. He's basically saying by reopening these relations that you're just appeasing the Castro regime. He's also one of the 47 senators that wrote that letter to the Iranians, and he doesn't support the Iran nuclear plan because he's basically saying that until we have something further to go on, you're just kind of letting them get by, where America is enabling the Iranians. And his quote was basically saying that at this rate, we're going to build the bomb for them in 5 years.
Finally, we've seen already some gaffes by other Republican candidates. Have you seen any yet from Rubio?
Well, none so far, but maybe he'll take another sip of water during a speech. The one thing that has come under fire is his logo. Some people say it's kind of strange looking, it's kind of bland. And the one criticism is that the map of the United States that dots the I is missing Alaska and Hawaii.
Mike, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Now, we've talked about a couple Republican candidates on the show and in previous shows, but we finally have a Democratic candidate running for president in 2016. So before we go to Topher Lane, take a look at this video.
Everyday Americans need a champion, and I want to be that champion. So you can do more than just get by. You can get ahead and stay ahead. So I'm hitting the road to earn your vote.
Well, the Democrats are officially joining the 2016 presidential campaign party. Hillary Clinton is the first major Democrat to announce her candidacy for the presidential election. Clinton served as senator for 8 years and Secretary of State for 1 term. Now the former First Lady has announced her plans to make her own run for the White House. This isn't the first time Clinton has eyed the Oval Office, though. Clinton ran in 2008 against President Obama, ultimately losing in the primaries. This time around, she's moving her campaign into social media age. Clinton is the current Democratic favorite with an impressive resume and a loyal following.
So, Topher, when you think of Hillary Clinton, you have to think of Bill. How will their relationship affect her candidacy and, frankly, her presidency?
Well, I think that it's actually very important to her candidacy that she has had this relationship with Bill. The fact that she's known the inner workings of the White House will really benefit her in the future. That being said, Bill Clinton, being her husband, also beloved by the Democratic Party, can do a great job campaigning for her. The Democrats will listen to most of the stuff that he'll say, so I think that he'll do a great job of putting her name out there and giving her a better shot in the primaries.
So you say Hillary is right now the Democratic favorite. She is the only official candidate. But is there anything going against her with the Democrats?
Well, there definitely is some things going against her, specifically that she's a little bit too cozy with business. And that's one of her main criticisms. She has, however, kind of strayed away from that. She went down to Iowa and she was talking to people down there, saying that she was talking to nurses and truckers on her way down there, and that they were seeing the same taxes that people on Wall Street were, to which Wall Street was laughing at, saying that they wouldn't really see any changes if she's even elected president. So she wants to stray away from that because of this kind of mockery that Wall Street is throwing at her. And to utilize that and to illustrate that, she talks now about how Elizabeth Warren has pulled her more to the left, and how they're pulling her towards taxing Wall Street more, and that she's going to be heavier on Wall Street if she becomes elected president.
So is she doing anything to try and change that image that you spoke of?
Well, like I said, her conversations with Elizabeth Warren have pulled her towards the left. So not only that, but she also admits that she wasn't really where she should have been. This is something that she's also, the fact that she's admitting her fault, really, it shows that she's kind of trying to work her way with the Democratic Party, and it's helping voters see that she's really trying to help them more than just help her own candidacy.
So let's assume she does get through the Democratic primary. How do you see her doing in a general election against the Republican nominee?
Well, I think it really depends on who actually is elected from the Republican candidacy, who comes out of the primaries for the Republicans. I think that against someone like a more extreme Republican, she might do well, especially in the sense that, you know, she's definitely getting some votes, and she's kind of the favorite of the Democrats. So Democrats are likely to vote for whoever comes out, especially if it is Hillary. On the other hand, there are a lot of issues with people talking about how the fact that she's a woman, maybe some people aren't comfortable with voting for a woman president, which I hate to say that this is something our country might still be facing, sexism in 2015, 2016 elections. That seems kind of barbaric in a sense, but it's possible that maybe that might detract votes from her. But on that same token, there might be a lot of women who would vote for her simply because she is a woman.
Topher, thanks so much for being with us tonight. Coming up on Talking Points, we'll take a look back at one of the worst bombings in United States history. Stay with us.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt.
Huntington!
Every proper bear knows that the right fit means everything. Especially when it comes to car seats.
Oh, really? I just did what any bear would do.
So know for sure that your child is in the right car seat for their age and size.
I like it.
To learn more, visit safercar.gov/the right seat.
Oh, hello there. Oh.
Where's that bear?
Welcome to Orange Press Pass.
Orange Press Pass is your ticket inside the Syracuse locker room. Hear from the coaches.
We got some open looks from the perimeter
and players.
Well, I saw pressure coming from the backside.
Get in-depth analysis, reports on site, and more.
Let's go on OPP.
Orange Press Pass, live after every Syracuse game.
Sunday marks the 20th anniversary of one of the worst terrorist attacks in United States history. Talking Points correspondent Jonathan Olins takes a look back at the event.
We're going to show you some video from the bombing. It may be disturbing to some. At 9:02 a.m. on April 19th, 1995, a truck packed with explosives detonated in front of the Alfred B. Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma City. The explosion caused the entire north wall to fall off. Emergency responders came from all over the country to help out. At the end of 2 weeks of rescue, a total of 168 people were dead, 19 of whom were children from the building's daycare. Many eyewitnesses of the bombing started rescuing the victims from the building even after emergency personnel arrived. The eyewitnesses continued to help in the rescue effort. This included helping to get the victims to the hospital because there were not enough ambulances. Many of the emergency personnel came from all over the country in order to help the rescue efforts. These efforts were returned as many rescue workers from the greater Oklahoma City area and the state of Oklahoma helped the first responders after the terrorist attacks on September 11, 2001. The man responsible for the attack was executed in June of 2001. One of the other conspirators is serving several life sentences in the Oklahoma State Penitentiary System for his role in the bombing. The words on the wall of the Oklahoma City National Memorial and Museum read, "We come here to remember those who were killed, those who survived, and those who changed forever. May all who leave here know the impact of violence. May the memorial offer comfort, strength, peace, hope, and serenity. On the 20th anniversary of this tragedy, we remember the victims and send our condolences to their families." Back to you, Max.
Thank you, John. Over the past year, there have been a number of high-profile cases of white police officers killing unarmed black men. A similar incident in South Carolina has been getting a lot of attention lately. We're going to show you a video of the incident now. Please be warned that it does contain graphic content. Your discretion is advised. To talk about the incident, here's Talking Points correspondent Josh Carney. Josh, thanks for being with us tonight.
Thanks for having me, Max.
What are the circumstances that lead to Walter Scott's death?
Well, within that video, Walter Scott was pursued by former officer Michael Slager of the North Charleston Police Department. Now, in that video, it's noticed that he was not much of a threat to the officer's life or anyone else around. Now, this is pointed out by the National Urban League president, Mark Morial. Now, why this is critical is because he was pursued outside of the car after being pulled over for a broken taillight. And after being fatally shot, a lot of questions are raised as to what were the motives behind Slager, because there is not a lot of evidence to suggest that he was under any harm.
So, we've seen a lot of profile cases like this one, high-profile cases, but why has Scott's death specifically attracted so much national attention?
Scott's death has not only attracted a lot of attention because Scott is black and Slager is white, but Slager has had several run-ins where he has had complaints lodged against him because he has pursued victims who have largely not been a threat and he has been over-aggressive with. He has several different cases pending where he has had problems with overusing his taser and also being too aggressive in the use of force. So when we look at police officers who have not been monitored, those who have not had to breathe the same repercussions as other officers in other facilities, it's imperative that people take action to make sure that these officers are not overly policing their communities.
Is police violence a growing trend? Do you think so?
Well, according to certain sites, especially the mappingofpoliceviolence.org, there is a growing trend in the amount of deaths that have taken place among African Americans and white Americans as well. Police violence is a prevalent threat, largely because there are many mistakes that have been made in many high-profile cases across the nation, but this happens yearly. A lot have gained national attention, but it does not present an epidemic, but it is a continuing problem that we can notice within our society.
Josh Carney, thanks so much. Coming up after the break, we'll take a look at the dynamics of the new U.S.-Cuba relationship. Don't go away.
I think that Citrus TV is important because especially this year, Syracuse has been in the news so often, and we've often been there first to be able to cover that and really deliver it to the students.
Citrus TV News is for our campus and our students.
The great thing about Citrus is we allow students to tell their stories, and we get to listen to their concerns.
Citrus is important because we cover campus news in a way that no one else really does.
Citrus TV is the voice of Syracuse University, and it's something we're very proud of and a responsibility that we take very seriously.
Welcome back to Talking Points. President Obama and Raul Castro of Cuba held a historic meeting as a part of the thaw in relations between the two countries. But what did they discuss? Talking Points correspondent Nick Papantonis is here with the details. Nick, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks, Max.
Take us through the backstory. What are the two countries fighting over, and what are they looking for?
So back in 1959, Fidel Castro overthrew a U.S.-backed government on the island of Cuba. He set up more of a communist regime. Now, there's two parts of that the United States government doesn't like. It's overthrowing a government that they support, as well as communism. So ever since then, the two nations have had a bit of a testy relationship. The Cubans were allies with the Soviet Union during the Cold War. That made things worse. Everyone remembers the Cuban Missile Crisis that was alive during that time.
So President Obama and Castro met in Panama last week. What did they talk about?
So most of what they talked about was the process that they're going to be going through and the reconciliation that they're going to have after 56 years of having no formal relations. So they said that they're going to be working towards getting embassies established in both countries. They're going to start normalizing trade, lifting sanctions. There's going to be there's going to be differences, and they did mention that. They're not going to agree on the way that countries should be run, but they're going to work with what they have in the meantime.
So what's the next step in the process? When are we going to see normal relations, if ever?
So Obama made a big decision this past week when he said that Cuba should be removed from the list of state sponsors of terrorism. That is going to pave the way for liftings of sanctions, more relations, investment in that country. However, there's a bit of a hurdle as the Congress has to approve it. They've got 45 days since he made that decision. They're not entirely in favor of that, Marco Rubio being one of those candidates that's not in the Cuba camp. So once that happens, if they get through that, then they'll be all set to go.
So we're talking about, this is President Obama's progress that he's making. He's almost out of his term. How do you think this is going to play a role in the 2016 election, and do you think all of his progress will be reneged?
So for Obama, this is a legacy moment, and for Obama to have a legacy moment, Republicans aren't going to be supporting that too much. So most of the Republican candidates so far have come out not in favor of normalizing relations. They want to keep the pressure on Cuba to change their human rights record. Hillary Clinton has come out saying it's a big step forward. She did say that the devil is in the details for the Iranian one. I think she has the same kind of view on the Cuba relations as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out in 2016. I think we're going to see a partisan divide in this issue.
Finally, you talked about the Cuban Missile Crisis earlier. You talked about how different generations will see this in different lights. How do you think that split will affect the election?
I think that Cubans who may have been inclined to support the Democratic Party in this next election are largely going to be backing Republicans. I think younger Cubans are going to be not as remembering of the times that their parents had to face during the Castro regime. They might be more inclined to support Obama, but I think largely that camp, there's not going to be too much of a generational divide in that area.
Nick Papantonis, thanks so much. While the U.S. and Cuba are mending their relationship, the relationship between Saudi Arabia and Iran is getting worse and worse. Joining me now is Talking Points correspondent Tom Austin to talk about the details of an ongoing power struggle in the Middle East and how the potential nuclear deal with Iran may affect it. Tom, good evening. Tom, what violence do we see today that's kind of a product of the conflict?
Well, the conflict between the two groups, as you mentioned before, it's ramping up, and Iran being a leader of the Shia Islam sect, and Saudi Arabia being a leader of the Sunni Islam sect, the tensions are high, but the violence is not necessarily seen on Iranian or Saudi Arabian soil. Where it's really most prevalent is in places like Syria and Yemen, in what many are calling proxy battles, where certain militia groups dissociated with Iran and Saudi Arabia and associated more so with the certain religious sects are fighting each other in this sectarian divide, and a lot of it, is really ravaging the landscape in Syria and Yemen.
So you're talking about the different sects, but where have each exerted their influence?
Sunnis are the Muslim majority in the region, but Iran has really expanded the Shiite dominion as much as they could. Iraq right now is ruled by a Shiite majority, and it was once under Saddam Hussein ruled by a Sunni minority, which has a lot to do with Iran's support. The Assad regime in Syria is a Shiite sect, and he stayed in power a lot because of Iran's support. And Saudi is very concerned about this changing influence between the two.
So is the U.S. doing anything to try and stabilize the region?
Yes, the U.S.'s plan with the Iran nuclear deal, aside from the fact of keeping Israel safe and keeping the U.S. tensions in consideration, is to disable an aggressive Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon. The fear is, and the fear from Saudi Arabia is that the lifting of sanctions will give Iran room to grow economically, and with economic growth, they can fund more of these operations, fund more cyber warfare, weaponry, whatever it is, to expand that Shiite dominion, and that could lead to a lot of problems.
So looking at 2016, it's a common topic tonight, but where will this fall into play during the election?
Well, you have to deal with the Iran nuclear deal, and I think it's important for every candidate to address it, not only from Israel's perspective, but to stabilize the Middle Eastern region, because if these conflicts continue, you see interests in oil really being affected, and I think that makes it very important.
Thanks for joining us tonight. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
I've got a job to do today.
I've got a job to do today.
Have a good first day at work, Mom.
Your donations to Goodwill fund job training programs right in your community.
Feels good to start fresh, right?
Sure does. And like that, you're a job creator.
Thanks for tuning in. Joining me now is Citrus TV's former news director, and current anchor, and managing editor of Talking Points, Nick Cardona. Nick has been an instrumental member of the entire news station. He has mentored and coached many of us, showed us the ropes. Between his passion for journalism, relentless work ethic, Nick has helped bring Citrus TV to where it is today. Personally, I wouldn't be where I am today if it weren't for Nick, so it brings me great pleasure to welcome my colleague, mentor, and friend Nick Cardona to the show. Nick, thanks for being with us tonight.
Thank you, Max. I wanted to come back on Talking Points during our final show to say thank you. There's a whole list of people I could name off, but it would take far longer than the minute I have, so I'll just give it a try. First off, I want to thank Anna Giles, who is now off becoming the next host of Meet the Press or some other big-time job. Anna and I co-founded Talking Points about 2 years ago, and without her knowledge and passion, the show would not have survived. Next, I want to thank Anna's replacement, who is in the control room right now, Claire Moran. Claire is going to stick around next semester and continue as the executive producer, and I can honestly say there is no one better to do the job than Claire. Now to all of the correspondents who are in the studio right now, who have worked week after week researching and talking about the big issues that face our local area and the country as a whole. And I'm going to try to list them off here. Mike, Josh, Abby Isaacs, Abby Budeman, Tom Austin, Tom Beckley, Jonathan Olins, Nick Papantonis, Sawyer, Ray, Hearns, Caroline Topher, and all of our previous correspondents from years past. You are what gives this show life and purpose. You are all going to be so successful in the years to come, and I can't wait to see what you do in the future. And last but not least, the man sitting next to me, my replacement, Max Darrow. Max Darrow could not, there's no better person that could sit behind this desk and that could handle the job and with devotion and expertise. So Max, it is a pleasure to work with you all these years, and I thank you so much for what you're doing for the show, and you've done an excellent job.
Nick, thank you so much. That's all the time that we have for tonight. Make sure to check us out on Twitter, Facebook, all the social media. We've done it before. I'm Max Darrow. Nick, why don't you help me sign this one off?
All right, in our final 30 seconds. Have a good night, everybody.